Imagine a nation driven by ambition, seeking to dominate an entire continent. A nation that would stop at nothing to expand its empire, even if it meant challenging the world's greatest powers. This is the story of Imperial Japan during World War II, a tale of rapid conquest, devastating conflict, and ultimate downfall. From the ashes of Pearl Harbor to the skies over Hiroshima, today we unravel the rise and fall of one of history's most formidable empires. Let's dive in. By the early 20th century, Japan had transformed itself from a feudal society into a modern industrial power. After the Meiji Restoration, the nation embraced rapid modernization, building a strong military and a thriving economy. But with power came ambition. Japan sought to secure resources and expand its influence, especially in resource-rich Asia. In 1931, Japan invaded Manchuria, marking the beginning of its aggressive expansion. By 1937, the Second Sino-Japanese War was in full swing, as Japanese forces pushed deeper into China. The world watched as Imperial Japan flexed its military might. But this was only the beginning. We would like to thank BrowseMe.com for sponsoring this video. Click link in the description. It's like having your own website in minutes with immense advertising and promotions potential. Now back to the video. On December 7, 1941, the world was stunned. In a daring surprise attack, Japanese forces bombed the U.S. Pacific Fleet at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. The goal: to cripple American naval power and secure Japan's dominance in the Pacific. The attack was devastating. Battleships were sunk, aircraft destroyed, and over 2,400 Americans lost their lives. But the attack also awakened a sleeping giant. The very next day, the United States declared war on Japan, entering World War II. For Japan, this was a gamble, one that would shape the course of the war. Following Pearl Harbor, Japan launched a wave of conquests across the Pacific. Within months, they captured Hong Kong, Singapore, the Philippines, and much of Southeast Asia. Their empire stretched from the borders of India to the islands of the Pacific, a vast territory they called the Greater East Asia Co-Prosperity Sphere. But this expansion came at a cost. Japanese forces were often brutal, committing atrocities against civilians and prisoners of war. The occupied territories suffered under harsh rule, and resistance movements began to emerge. Meanwhile, the Allies were preparing to strike back. By mid-1942, the tide began to turn. The Battle of Midway, fought in June 1942, was a decisive victory for the United States. Japan lost 4 of its aircraft carriers, a blow from which its navy would never fully recover. From there, the Allies launched a counteroffensive. Island by island, they pushed back Japanese forces in brutal campaigns like Guadalcanal, Iwo Jima, and Okinawa. These battles were marked by fierce fighting, with both sides suffering heavy casualties. Yet Japan refused to surrender, clinging to the hope of victory. As the war dragged on, Japan's situation grew desperate. Allied bombings devastated cities like Tokyo, and resources were running low. Yet Japan's leaders vowed to fight to the bitter end. Then came August 1945. The United States dropped atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, killing hundreds of thousands and leaving the cities in ruins. The devastation was unimaginable. Days later, Japan surrendered, bringing World War II to an end. The era of Imperial Japan was over.